What is going on, Governors? Chisgule here, and today we are going to smash the level 100 of the normal difficulty on Karuak ceremony. It's not a particularly easy event, and we're going to talk all about the strategy. If you're interested in the strategy for completely smashing all of the difficulties of the Karuak ceremony, you should subscribe because we're going to hit the highest level as soon as it's available and conquer it each time. So with that said, our guide today is going to do a couple things. We're going to talk about the loot, we're going to talk about the strategy, and we're going to give you some closing tips to best prepare for this event. First up, let's show you the loot. As you rank up your level of treasure, you can get at this normal tier 5 legendary commander sculptures and 6 starlight sculptures. That is pretty darn good. Rarely are there situations in this game where you can trade action points for legendary stuff. So anytime an opportunity comes up like that, I am generally pretty darn happy. The other thing that's worth mentioning, and I'll use editing magic to include some screenshots over here, is that every 10 levels now, you get kind of a mini boss that you fight, and that mini boss also drops some small amount of loot. So I'll flash through a couple of those photos over here, and you can get a sense of the kind of stuff that you're getting. I think it's awesome that they increase the amount of loot in this event. Now, it is also worth mentioning that your commanders gain experience from battling or rallying against the minions that you summon. So there's a lot of experience to be gained in this event. Spoiler alert, Lohar can add a lot of value there for amplifying the amount of experience you gain. So with all that said, it's time for us to talk about the strategy. And there's a couple things we need to talk about with regard to strategy. There's 2 sort of phases for this event, and I'm getting into how to conquer this tier. If you want the introduction to this event, I'll include a card up in the top. You can go check that out. I won't go over those basics, but I will cover the 2 core phases, which are when you're soloing and when you're rallying. Now, you want to solo the groups that you summon for as far and as long as you possibly can, so that you reduce the amount of burden on your alliance for committing to rallies. And although your alliance members do get really sweet stuff for participating in rallies, it uses up a lot of action points, and you want to get as many people as possible in your alliance to get through this event. And that is because the more people that get through this, you can summon higher and higher, progressively more difficult bosses that also drop sweet, sweet loot. So, to progress as far as you can solo, there's a couple things you should think about. The first is what buffs you use. And there's a couple of buffs you can use, the first of which is choosing from among a defense buff or an attack buff. And while 5% doesn't seem like much, every little bit counts when you're trying to solo as far as you can by yourself. The next thing I would think about is picking up a rune on the map that either increases your troop health or troop attack, a little bit of extra buff. And then lastly, if you're really serious about pushing at the solo level, you can use an army expansion. And a basic army expansion increases the amount of troops your armies can carry by 25%, which lasts for 4 hours. This, of course, is only valuable if you're maxing out the number of troops you can actually send. In other words, if you have enough troops to add on to your army. At some point, you start sending out 2 or 3 armies, and I actually encountered a problem here, which is that I didn't have enough max tier units. In fact, I didn't have enough units at the top 2 tiers I could make, tier 4 or tier 3. And so using an army expansion wouldn't have actually done anything for me. I could only fill 2 armies worth of units, wouldn't have helped to have had capacity for more units. So one of the tips that we'll talk about a little bit later is you kind of want to be training a lot of troops in preparation for this event. So once you've got your buffs in place, and if I missed any buffs, let me know in the comments. You want to think strategically about what armies you send to go battle. And there's really 2 types of armies you want to have. One that is your tanking army, and the other that is your DPS army. So to give an example, I used Lohar and Joan of Arc as my tank army. And that is because Lohar has healing, and Joan of Arc has healing, and also reduces the amount of damage taken by that squad by 25%. I filled that squad with infantry units because Joan of Arc increases the infantry health by 30%, and they became my tank unit. My DPS unit was Minamoto, with Cao Cao as the secondary, and my talents on Minamoto were peacekeeping. Those also are my talents on Lohar, by the way. By having that combination of a tank unit and a DPS unit, I was able to progress all the way up to level 69 by myself, and at 70 I needed to start doing rallies. If I had better prepared and had trained up more tier 4 troops in advance of this event, I probably could have pushed to 80 or maybe even a little bit further. If you're starting to rally below level 70, you're going to have a really tough time completing this event, and it's going to be a heavy load for your alliance to carry you through it. Even though the loot is really sweet for your alliance, there's just only so many action points to go around. Now, with that said, I just want to check in on the time for our rally that we've got going against a level 100 final tier here. Our alliance members are coming to aid us. We've got a max army here. My alliance members have been super awesome in this event. Shout out to you all for helping me push to level 100. So we've got a little bit of time before we need to look at that. Let me just show you actually who I'm using as my commanders. So I am using Minamoto as the primary with peacekeeping talents, and Joan of Arc as the secondary. And I played around with using Lohar, because Lohar has 35% damage to barbarians. That's a really big deal, instead of Joan of Arc. But I found that it was night and day how much better Joan of Arc was in this situation as the secondary commander. And I think that has to do with the fact that she's reducing the damage taken by 25%, as well as providing massive, massive buffs to the army. So when you think about who to use, you want to send two of your strongest commanders. Percent damage to barbarians goes a very long way, as does percent damage reduction, which is something that Joan of Arc offers in spades. So, while we wait for this rally to hit, and we've only got a couple minutes before that happens, there's a couple other things I want to walk through. The first is that having your highest tier of troops trained and ready is a big deal. I could have gotten so much further in this event by myself. I could have been much less of a burden on my alliance members if I had more armies trained, and I regret having not done that during an event that would have given me more benefits for having done that training. So if you have not been powering out some amount of troops and you've been using your speed ups other places, and by the way, I use like all my speed ups, all of them, on buildings rather than armies, you can find yourself in this similar situation and you're at a disadvantage. The next thing that I want to offer as a major piece of advice is that I've got over a day left, just under a day left in this event. And it is going to be super chaotic in the last day of this event. Everybody's going to try to push to finish, and not everyone is going to get to the finish line. And you could get lost in the shuffle if you are not pushing aggressively, because the reality is that I think the loot might be slightly better in the higher tiers of this event. I'm not sure if that's actually true, but people seem to like be way more into joining a level 100 rally over a level 50 rally, right? Like people are much more ready to come to your aid at that top tier. So you don't want to be getting to rallies on the final day of the event, because everybody is going to be rallying and you might get lost in the mix. The next general tip that I want to offer is that you really ought to save up action points for this event. And the way you do that, first of all, when your daily reset is about to happen, I like to start saving up action points. I know I talked about that in a prior video, but you can see how much time is left till your daily reset. If there's not an event going on that involves action points, save them up. Save them up so you can hit whatever event starts the next day with full action points. And the next thing I'll point out is like, check out how many action point potions I've got here. Right, I've got a ton. And I'm going to use a bunch of these helping my alliance members finish out this event. But you always want to have action point potions on hand for events like this one. And so if you find yourself not having action points for crucial events like this, I would recommend either not spending as much on other events, evaluating more critically where and when you're using them, and considering accumulating a stockpile of these so that when a big event rolls around, you can totally smash it. I would rather have used up a bunch of action points at the start of this event aggressively than get to the end of this event and not um, and have to be competing with everybody else trying to rally at the same time. Oh, hey, here we go. The combat has started. We're going to totally smash this thing. He stands no chance. Look at that nuke. 37,000. Whoo! I mean, we are totally crushing it. We are primarily tier 4 troops in this battle. You can see the sustain of Joan of Arc is real, but also, like, gosh, we've got 850,000 troops, and this is not a cakewalk. This is not a cakewalk. I'm sure you already know that the nukes and healing, when they say damage and healing factors, scale with the number of troops you have in your army. So when you rally, that number goes way, way up. And I have the talents on Minamoto so that I do 9% extra damage in rallied attacks. So that is stacking up as well. I've got the talent that does 15% extra damage. So that's making these nukes like totally crazy. You also take 15% more damage, but we'll talk about that talent in another video. So we're totally going to smash this thing. We'll see if we get any special notifications. I think we are going to get some special rewards when we finish this. Huge shout out again to my Alliance Legion for helping me get to this point. And the last big tip I had for you, by the way, is that be generous in this event. Be generous with your Alliance members, even if it means you're using up some of your action points and action point potions to help them, even though you need to complete the event yourself. If you can be generous to them, hopefully they can be generous back to you. And as I was doing this event, I would often get into a rotation of who'd do a rally. So, someone near me, like I know Jlax and I were trading off rallies. Someone else and I were trading off rallies at one point. Like they'd rally and I'd go to theirs, then I'd rally and they'd come to mine. The generosity goes a long way, and it'll help everybody get to the finish line. So we've done it. Let's check out our mail and see what we got here. Look at that experience, by the way. 31,800 experience. Whew. The experience in this event is really, really solid. And if you're using a commander like Lohar, it amplifies it pretty substantially. Maybe I should have been using Lohar here. We're going to get a system message here. Oh, dude, that's amazing. A legendary commander sculpture and a dazzling starlight sculpture at the top tier. Hello. Yes, please. So as I mentioned, at every 10 levels, you get something sweet. And we got something pretty awesome here at level 100. This is the first time we got a legendary. All the other ones were epic. So we'll claim that. That is amazing. And let's just zip over real quick to see if there's anything in here. Challenge complete. We've done it, my friends. We've done it. We're going to go help out our allies. We might even host some rallies, which looks like a thing we might need to go and do. And otherwise, my friends, if you like this video, please do like and subscribe for more content that is just like this. We're going to smash this event every time it comes around, and I want you to be a part of that. And until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.